And we are live for this post-game Bleed Los podcast episode as we're celebrating the Dodgers 10-5 victory over the New York Mets in Game 6 of the NLCS as they not only win the NL pennant, but they will face the New York Yankees in what is expected to be a fantastic World Series between two historic clubs. But before we get into all the celebration, before we get into all the discussions of the game and what we're looking forward to, we'll reflect on the season, whatever you guys want to talk about today in the chat. And then the two guys I got here today, and Mike and Carlos. Let's get the ad out of the way and thank our sponsor, Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. Bet Online has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of that $200,000. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack, poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today and get in on the action. Bet online. The game starts here. And guys, you heard it in the
Woo! Let's
intro.
go.
We're going to the World Series. Long season. There was a lot of doubts for October. People, the dog celebrating in the background. He's excited about it too. I feel like this is the core group right here that never, wavered. We always showed the support for the team. So, Carlos, you're the big one. You've always felt you've had the faith.
Yeah, so let me start by, first of all, Edmonds just got MVP. And for that home run, cheers for Edmonds. And then this one is for the Dodgers going to the World Series. And just so you guys know, it's just water. And, it's exciting. What can I say? I'm kind of lost for words right now, but it was great. It was tense at the beginning of the game, but the Dodgers offense has been it's been amazing. I mean, I think they ended up averaging like 9 runs per game in this series, and the offense didn't falter at all. And it's kind of sad not to see Freddie in the lineup, but you know what? He wasn't missed. And then we said before this game, Teoscar had to be big. He was 0 for 18 before today, and I don't know what he did. I don't know if he went into with Mookie Betts and took 100 swings in the dugout or wherever, but he was on fire. He had 2 hits in his first 2 at bats, had the sac fly, I believe, and it was great. And Edman, what can we say about Edman? I mean, we talk about like Kopech and Flaherty being great picks, man. Edman, what probably the best pickup of all trade deadlines in the MLB. So, yeah, big props to him. Just everybody contributed in some way. The bullpen. Trinan looked so great when he first, when in the 8th, he struck out everybody on, he struck out the side. So, yeah, it was all positive. It was great. And, I'm excited. I can't wait for this series to begin in the next series. But, this is enjoy the celebration, because we haven't been to the World Series since 2020, right?
Yep,
And
it's
it hasn't
been a
been
couple
a
years.
Dodger
Yep.
Yankee World Series, and I don't know how long it is, but it's been a long time.
Yeah. So the last time they met is in 1981, well before my time. So it's been a long time coming. And, I don't want to offend anybody because a lot of people that I talked to yesterday were, this is what the MLB needed. The MLB after last year's World Series, for whatever you want to describe it as, it was the lowest rated World Series of all time in terms of viewership. This one right here between, the best team on the West Coast and the best team on the West Coast, the two most popular teams in the sport. This is just a dream come true for Rob Manfred and everybody behind the scenes in Major League Baseball. But Mike, everything the Dodgers had to go through this season, the ups and the downs, the injuries, whatever you name it, to get to the World Series, with this roster, with the rotation the way it was, did it catch you by surprise at all, or did you, like Carlos and I, just still have faith?
It caught me by surprise. I'll go back to when I was at spring training this year, getting content for the channel and for Dodgers Beat. Team looked great, had a good lineup, had good vibes in the clubhouse. Then we started losing one pitcher, lost another pitcher, lost another pitcher, lost Cody, and yeah, it was crazy. And then that's when I started to like maybe I don't want to say doubt, but I was like going, well, I don't know. You know, if we go to the World Series, great. If we don't, I'm not going to be mad. I'm more concerned. I was more hyped for next year. Because I actually thought that the team needed to gel a little bit. They needed to get some cohesion. And get this first year underneath their belt, and then really make a big push for next year. So I'm super excited. Um, couldn't be happier for the team. I think this team right here will go down in history for the amount of injuries that they've had, for the diversity that they had, how they've had to come together, how the front office has built this team, with all the injuries and moving players here and moving players there. Lux isn't at short, Mookie's playing short, then he's playing second, then he's going back to left, then he's going back to right field. Andy Pages comes out, James Outman goes down. Gavin Stone has one of the best seasons of his career, coming up from the minors, which I was super happy to see. We got kids like Kasperius, that's coming up. Edgardo that came up and contributed. Just having the farm system that we had and having them come in and contribute the way that they did this year is mind blowing to me. And you got to hand it to Dave Roberts and that front office for sticking with the team, building a good plan, and getting the Dodgers to the World Series.
I like how you say, because it's not just the 26-man roster, it's the entire 40-man roster, it's the entire coaching staff from, single A, rookie ball, it's the whole organization. When they lose back-to-back years in the NLDS, one of the themes, if you guys remember the jokes, is just organizational failure. They said the same thing in back-to-back years during both NLDS losses. Andrew Freeman's words, he said in both press conferences after the Padres loss in 22 and after the D-backs loss last year. And credit to him, because that's one of the things we were really excited going into, last offseason, is because you were like, the Dodgers can't let it happen again. And they didn't. They went out and got the players that they needed to get. And even I was kind of a little shell shocked in the winter, because, I know they had the money. I know they have, the talent to bring these people in, but to get, both Ohtani and Yamamoto, that kind of just, headlines everywhere. Now the target's on the Dodgers yet again. And credit to them overcoming all of the stuff that they've overcome this year. I mean, like, it's really at a loss of words, because when you go into the postseason, obviously there's concerns about the layoff. Then you get to face the Padres again, who, in my opinion, were pretty much, the second best team in the National League. And in some aspects, they were better than the Dodgers. And that series went a full 5 games. You would think maybe we're getting shades of the 2021 NLDS, where when that team went to the CS, they were kind of gassed out and they kind of flamed out at the end, losing in 6 games. But this team just did not lose any momentum at all. They had a chance. They went up 3-1 in this series, couldn't close it out in Queens, come back to home. And for, a little bit of the game, it was kind of close. The bullpen wasn't exactly too sharp, but this offense, man, has just been relentless. I think this is the best collective offense that they've hit in the postseason in my time watching, because even in 2020, it was really just led by Corey Seager during the CS and the World Series. This time, it just feels like everybody is chipping in. I'm talking 1 through 9 and even the bench, because Chris Taylor, you see, he knows his role, gets a flared single, is setting up a bunt to make sure Ohtani has someone in runners in scoring position. So, I mean, I feel like everybody knows their role. And I would say this is the deepest offense I've seen this team have in a while. And Carlos is right. Tommy Edman is by far and away like the biggest steal of this trade deadline, because I tweeted out a couple times already. They got him for nothing. They got Kopech and him for Miguel Vargas, who, you hope he flourishes in Chicago with the White Sox, but it doesn't really look like it. He really didn't have a spot here in LA, and that's all. They just shipped him out there and got 2 key players that are the reason why they are where they are. So, Carlos, I mean, what more can we say about Emma? Because you just mentioned he got the LCS MVP. That was a given. But the fact that he can go in to play shortstop once Miguel Rojas, has the groin injury, keeping him out. I mean, this is like true, like utility guy that can play anywhere and hit. And, he hits lefties with power. We saw everything on display today, right?
Yeah, no, definitely we did. Before I go into numbers on batting and stuff, I just want to keep pointing out the fact that, this year, when the season starts every year, I feel like the Dodgers are always the favorites to win the whole thing. But as soon as we enter the playoffs, against the Padres, we were the underdogs. We entered the series against the Mets, we were the underdogs. I'm looking at right now because I took a screenshot of this before it disappeared on MLB.com. Their experts, they had 26 of 45 votes picking the Mets, 58%. And out of those 58%, they had the Mets winning in 17 of them had the Mets winning in 6. 5 votes, they had them winning in 5. So man, Dodgers have proven everybody wrong. Like I said, we've watched Dodgers all year long. We know that their strength is this. I mean, this is how they play. They play 4 or 5 innings on the starter, and then they go to the bullpen. And so Dodgers that's how they're built. And right now, going in, I know we'll discuss it later, and I know we'll discuss it on the live before the first game. We're built. We're like set up for this Yankee series really well, because now we're going to have a full rested 3 guys, our rotation, which is 3 guys, and then the bullpen game on the 4th game. But we're ready to go. But yeah, talking about Edmonds, I mean, his stats for this series, it's out of this world. He was 11 for 27. He had 11 RBIs, scored 5 runs, and batted .407. The next guy after him was, he didn't have as many at bats, but it was Taylor, who had a great game today. He was 3 for 8 in the series, batted .375. But someone with more at bats was Ohtani. He was 8 for 22, had 6 RBIs, 9 runs scored, and .364. And obviously the runs scored, he had a high run score because he's leading off. But yeah, overall we had 5 guys in the lineup that were batting over 300, which is what we need. And those guys need to stay in the lineup and keep playing. And like I said before, if Freddie can't play, and Freddie's definitely the consummate gentleman baseball player. If he can't play, he should be up front with the organization, with Roberts, and say, you know what, I'm not 100%, and let somebody else play. And today, and we were discussing this yesterday, Taylor was that man. Is it Taylor or Freddie? And we were saying, well, if Freddie can play, then it's going to be Freddie, because Taylor at that point only had like a hit, I think, or something. But you know what? Today, Freddie said, I can't play. The matchup didn't bode well for him as well. So we went with Taylor. So Taylor batted. Taylor did it well. I mean, Taylor played, and he did it well. And if that's the case come Friday, I mean, it's a whole week, almost like a whole week off. Who knows what's going to happen? But if he can't play, then let some other guy play, and they got to step it up.
Yeah, and you mentioned, they have a good amount of time to get their rotation reset, the bullpen rested, and Freddie Freeman also gets almost a whole week to kind of just stay off his feet, rest the ankle a little bit, and then they should reevaluate it on Friday before game 1, which is 100% what they're going to do. It's still going to be a game time decision. It's not an injury that's going to go away overnight. It's going to follow him for the rest of, these next potential 7 games of this World Series. I think the Dodgers are set up well. They can kind of do whatever they want to do with their rotation. Their arms are going to be ready. You can go Flaherty, Yamamoto, or Buehler in game 1 or 2. They could even opt for a bullpen game in game 2. That way they can have, traditional starters in New York that would, if that fits their schedule better for the end of the series. Because even Dave Roberts said for this series, a 7-game series, we gave him a lot of crap saying, it seemed like he kind of waved the white flag for, 2 of these games here. And it's like along those lines of like, yeah, maybe I lose the battle, but in the end I win the war. Like I got the ultimate goal done. This is everything went according to plan for the Dodgers. I'm pretty sure this whole October run, everything the Dodgers planned out and coordinated ended up happening, because in the NLDS, they went the distance. In the NLCS, you had to throw 2 bullpen games. One of them was kind of more of like, all right, get us a lengthy innings eater guy, and then we'll kind of piece it together if we're close. Today was a traditional bullpen game, a lot closer than what we thought it was going to be, especially early on until the Dodgers offenses started, just scoring a lot of runs. Let's dive into the game itself, Mike. Bullpen game, Kopech right off the bat, isn't isn't doing well. His command is all over the place. Wild pitch. They end up scoring a run in the top of that inning. But the bullpen for the most part settled in the rest of the way. Even despite being down 1-0, we had our first lead change in this game. What did you see from the Dodgers bullpen today? And is there a possibility that they may be overworked by the time the World Series starts?
What I saw today from the bullpen is they're tired. They're tired. They're going to need this break. They're going to need some time to regroup, get some rest, and come out and play against the Yankees, who are going to be a tough opponent because the Yankees. I'm not going to go too far into it, so I'm sure we're going to get into it later. But the bullpen looked pretty tired. Kopech, kind of demonstrated why he's not a starting pitcher anymore, and because he didn't do very well. I thought he was going to go at least 2 innings, but he only lasted one. His command was way off. He wasn't hitting his marks, kind of like what we were talking about, in the pregame. He just didn't have it today, at least as a starting pitcher. It was good to see the other guys come up and step up. Bonda had a decent run, of an inning and a half. Brazier looked okay, for his inning and a half. I was kind of disappointed they didn't keep Kasparius in and give him at least 2 innings. I would have I would have liked to have seen him, go a little bit longer. I think he had way more to give, and I think they just pulled him a little too early. Blake Triton was the key. He doesn't look tired. He looks fired up. He looked like a professional the way that he is, and he came out and got the job done. Evan Phillips kind of struggled a little bit. His command was off for a little bit. He wasn't hitting his marks like he normally does. But other than that, Dodgers got the win. The offense, like we talked about in the pregame, it's going to be the offense. It's going to get him the win tonight, and they did that.
Yeah, I mean, the bullpen, you look at it, the question we were asking, in the pregame yesterday, and then, in our chat off air, we were like, who's going to give them 2 innings? It ended up being Blake trying to close out the game to get the 6th inning or the 6th out, closing it down, not a save just because of the situation. But, yeah, I mean, you got a 1 1/3 innings from a couple guys. You got an inning from Phillips, who I imagine they wanted to get at least one, maybe go like 1 2/3 or maybe 2 innings. Daniel Hudson kind of got hit around a little bit, gave up 2 hits. Brazier, I mean, that was the guy we mentioned, hasn't really, if you're going to look at a weak link in the chain, in terms of traditional bullpen arm, not naming a starter like Kasparius, Henriquez, or, Knack. I mean, he's been the weakest link Brazier has. Gave up a couple. What was it? The run today. I mean, it is what it is. The Dodgers still overcame it because of the offense. They didn't get to teeter down, and credit to Blake Trinan. For his age, for the injury history that he's had, Dodgers took a chance on him yet again, bringing him back on a $1 million deal, I might add. So it seems like that is the steal of the century for the Dodgers, trusting the guy that they've had on the team since 2020. They brought him in here during the 2019 offseason, and he's just been lights out that when he's been on the mound for them. And it's similar, with Walker Buehler, who kind of missed like almost 2 years. China was also along those lines, and he was a big reason why the Dodgers bullpen just didn't get the job done in years past, in 2022 and 2023. So credit to him, credit to the Dodgers bullpen for getting this win today, but credit to the offense as well. Carlos, I'll go to you because there's a lot of offense that we can talk about today. We already mentioned Edman. Obviously we gave him his flowers. Shohei Ohtani, didn't do too much. He got the blue pit to still extend his, runners in scoring position streak. So far right now, what is he at? It was 18 for his last 23, going back to that 6-for-6 game against the Marlins in terms of runners in scoring position. Dodgers brought this guy in, $700 million contract, first year in Dodger blue, gonna win the MVP, and is now in the World Series. he pretty much changed his entire offense, with his speed. We didn't really see that much in October, but, the presence of him, the Mets were certainly trying to pitch around him all series.
Yeah, the thing about Otani, and I think the biggest change the Dodgers did between the regular season and the postseason is going to be the ninth spot. The ninth spot didn't really free swing a lot from the Padres series to the Mets series. I saw them try to bunt a lot because they wanted to avoid the double play to give Otani the chance to come up with runners on base. And then consequently, we're now talking about this crazy streak he's on. So that's worked out really well. So, credit to Otani, but credit to the ninth and eighth hitters for for getting on base, for avoiding the double play. And I know that a lot has to do with Roberts, and that's kind of his plan with the ninth batter. We saw it, like you mentioned earlier. We saw it today with Taylor. I mean, he missed the second one. I think he missed like two bunt attempts. I think on the third one he got it, and sure enough, Alonso tries to go get Smith at second base for the force out, and he was too late, and he was safe. And I think Otani gets a single on that one. I'm not sure, but the point is that Otani, was given the opportunity to score runs, and that was great. I think I love that move. I think we always talk about bunts. Let's get some bunts done. So I'm excited for that. I definitely, I hope that I'm sure it's going to continue in the World Series. So yeah, it's Otani is the catalyst in the team, but I feel like the team. Somebody in the chat mentioned a couple of lives ago about he just brings the best out of everybody else. Like Betts going into taking 100 swings before the game, or 100, 200 swings, whatever he's doing. He's trying to elevate his game, so he's not, he doesn't want to be known as the guy who can't perform in the playoffs. So that was great. Teoscar, whatever he did, and I'm sure he heard the critics. I'm sure he saw his stat that he was 0 for 18. Whatever he did, that worked. So it's like it's great to just see the team like kind of elevate themselves to another level, and because we're a great team no matter what. And like we said from the earlier, I mean, you, Mike, and I have been so like true Dodger like believers that we were going to get it done, and we said, hey, let's go the tough route. Let's play the toughest teams. Let's not kind of cheat. Let's not be second seed to avoid the Padres or avoid this team. So this is what we wanted. We want to play the best teams, and now now we're going to play the best American League team for the World Series, and I feel real confident. I know we'll discuss that later, but yeah, Dodgers are a good team, and like I said, we're going to be fully rested, and the offense, as long as it keeps hitting the way they are, I don't think anybody can stop the Dodgers.
It has been a running gag where it's the Yankees have had the easiest path to their World Series in quite some time, going through the American League Central, taking out the Royals and then facing a Guardians team that, not many people expected either of those teams to be this far in the postseason. But I think it goes to what we said, Carlos. We wanted to face the best teams because what brings out the best in your players? It's facing the best. And for the first two rounds that they've played, I mean, I already mentioned it. The offense is playing better than I've ever seen them play in the month of October. Otani's got a 934 OPS. Betts has a 1. OPS. Edmonds at 810. He's shown some power, but he also is more of a contact hitter. Muncy is another one. He just gets on base with a walk, but if he can get a hit, it's for power. He's got a 1. OPS as well. Top to bottom, this entire lineup just knows how to hit. They know how to not make the moment too big. And I think that's just going to bode well for them because the Yankees, they have faced some good teams. I'm not going to discredit the Kansas City Royals. They have the American League, runner up in the MVP and Bobby Witt Jr. more than most likely. And then they face a Guardians team that has a lot of superstars on their team, with Kwan, and then you got Jose Ramirez at third base. So they face some good teams, but they haven't faced the Dodgers. Dodgers, even with a depleted starting rotation, I mean, it's going to be the Yankees' hardest matchup of October so far. And it gets me excited because even if you take these teams bare bones, you dissect them, player by player, they're pretty evenly matched. And that's with the Dodgers being, missing a lot of key pieces. So, Mike, let's just start getting into it. The Yankees, they will come. Game 1 will be on Friday. Game 2 will be on Saturday, both at Dodger Stadium. What are we looking forward to for this Yankee series?
This series is going to be a close series. There's not going to I don't see any blowouts happening at any game. I think they're going to be close games. I'm looking at 4-3, 2-1. Low scoring games. The Yankee batters are like the Dodger batters. They go out, especially at the bottom of the middle of the bottom of the lineup. They go out and they grind the ball and they grind the pitcher down. They're just like our hitters. So I think it's going to be a real tough series. I actually kind of think this is going to be the first time um, from the NLDS and the NLCS that we're going to see, wow, man, we really need one or two more starters. I think this is going to be the series is where we're going to be exploited a little bit on not having two extra really good starters on the team. But I have faith in the team. I think they got the momentum behind them. I think that they, have that mentality of like, we've been the underdogs, we're going to show you. And, I'm not going to be surprised, if if the Dodgers go all the way. But I don't see, this World Series to be like any blowouts. I'll be surprised if there's any blowouts.
Hey, so I want to just mention Simeon was saying that he was 1 years old when the Dodgers played the Yankees. I know. I think Cody wasn't even born. My brother had just messaged me before the end of the game, or right when the game finished, and that he was born in '83, so it'll be his first Yankee game. I was actually 8 years old, and I actually do remember it. And it's going to be great. I mean, it's going to be new memories. It's going to be new memories for everybody they're going to create. So I just wanted to share something with you guys. So obviously, my name Carlos Alfaro Real Estate. So I'm a realtor, and so this week, my wife's listing a new house, and so the owners had left, had taken all their belongings, and we were left with like clean out the house and get the house ready for, for listing. And so sure enough, we started going through the house, and I found in the closet, I found this newspaper by coincidence. Look at this.
No way.
Yes. So this is, okay, right there. So this is what I found.
Wow.
Kid you not. This is Dodgers win it all. It's LA Blast Yankees 9-2, take first World Series title since 1965. This whole newspaper is intact. I mean, it's what's that? How many years is that, Cody? I'm a little so 19
or 40-ish years, yeah.
Yeah, some 40 odd years. So it's dated Thursday, October 29th, 1981. So I found this. What a coincidence. And sure enough,
crazy.
They're playing the Yankees, and I found that. So you know what? I don't call it fate. I don't know. So so those are good jujus for the Dodgers. I just wanted to share that with you guys. It was crazy when I found it. I'm like, okay, I got to keep this, and so I wanted to share that with you guys.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome to have that type of relic. But, Yankees, a lot of people haven't seen this matchup. And even Roger and I mentioned, if you look back in baseball history, Dodgers and Yankees have met a lot of times in the World Series, through the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s. They haven't met since 81. This is a really good matchup for baseball. I already mentioned that. It's a really good matchup for, both franchises to finally meet again, because it seems like after the 80s and especially the 90s, the Dodgers, when they were good, the Yankees weren't good, because then the Yankees in the early 90s, they really weren't competitive at all. The Don Mattingly years, where he was just the odd man out there, the rare Yankee legend to not get a World Series. And then, in the early, 2000s, late 90s, the Dodgers weren't super competitive, or pennant chasers, if you will. And the Dodgers on their run, which started, right now in 2013, the Yankees were still kind of on the up and up after their, kind of semi rebuild. And they've gotten close a couple times. They got cheated out by the Astros in 17 as well. A couple first round exits. And now they finally put it all together, and they face the Dodgers in the World Series. So Carlos, what are we expecting from this Yankees team? Because how much tabs have you kept on, the Yankees, especially during this October run?
Yeah, so I mean, I've watched some games. I seen a lot of back and forth with the Guardians. I didn't watch so much of the Royal Series, but I want to reflect back on the series they had in New York early in the season. We could have easily swept them. We played them very well. I don't know if it was you, Cody, or Roger. I don't know who brought it up to me that when we played them in that series, they were without Soto, and at the time they hadn't traded for Jazz Chisholm yet. So how big a role are they going to play? Obviously, we know Soto is, the new $800 million guy or something like that. And Jazz Chisholm, I mean, he's kind of like, he's become like this like superstar ever since he joined the Yankees. I mean, so I don't, if I say we based it on that series, I mean, Dodgers should, it's a cakewalk, but it's not. It's not based on that series. So I haven't done my research. I haven't looked at the stats. I haven't looked at the playoff stats. I know that a lot of criticism on Aaron Judge that he doesn't perform in the playoffs. I know that Stanton has just like become, I think I'm going to quote Cody's word. I think it was Cody, become the new Babe Ruth in New York. So, Ohtani has lived up to his hype in this series. He batted over 300 and he did well. And Edman is, I guess, I don't know. I guess I don't know who we can compare him to, but he's been off the charts. So it's hard to really break down the series yet. Like I said, I haven't done my research to look at the stats and see how these players have done, but I sure will. I mean, before the next live, and I'll look to see who's hot, who's not, who's batting better against who's like Flaherty. Flaherty's probably the only pitcher that the Yankees probably faced a lot, because Flaherty comes from the American League. So we'll look at those stats. I haven't looked at it. Carlos Rendon was with the Giants. Correct me if I'm wrong. And so we'll look at those stats. We're going to look to see if has he evolved like Mania evolved and changed his arm slot. I don't know. That's all the stuff that we got to look at before we make kind of any sort of analysis about the series. So what else stands out? I mean, that's it. That right now, that's the things that stand out that I need to like look into to make a good judgment on like how fast the Dodgers can win this series.
Yeah, and I think we're definitely gonna. It's hard to get all the information like right now, immediately after the Dodgers clinch the pennant. Obviously, throughout the week, we're gonna go through it more in depth with this matchup, whether it's on the channel here, the Bleed Lows podcast, or on DodgersBeat.com. I'm sure we're gonna have a lot of stuff to write about this series coming up. Just face value, just looking at this team right now. I do agree, Carlos. If you go back to that series in what was it, June? The Yankees were kind of, beaten up a little bit on the IL front. I don't think Garrett Cole returned yet. I don't think we already mentioned Juan Soto. He wasn't IL'd, but he did miss that entire series. Just first things first, their bullpen's just as good as the Dodgers, if not better. They've been almost lights out this entire postseason. So they're kind of on a roll right now. Their starting rotation, I mean, it's 50-50 for me. It's led by Garrett Cole. I mean, you know what you're going to get with Garrett Cole, even with him having some like arm elbow issues this year. It seems like that's in the past. But, Clark Schmidt, I mean, you get what you get with him. Luis Gills kind of had a second half, regression, hasn't been the best. And Carlos Rodon, he has been like 50-50 his entire Yankees tenure. You're either going to get a really good start, or most of the time you're going to get like a lukewarm, pretty bad start where a lot of Yankees fans, from my knowledge is a lot of Yankees fans hate him. So that just shows you how he's pitched in pinstripes. And then in the offensive side, you definitely know what you're going to get. Jazz Chisholm, as much hate that he gets, he kind of, I wouldn't say energize this Yankees team, but he's definitely fit his role well, playing third base. If he needs a spot start in the outfield, he'll go there and do it. He's kind of embodied the Yankee culture, which is funny because a player of his caliber or his personality seems like the complete opposite of Mr. Yankee or whatever, but he kind of blended into that clubhouse really well. Stanton's been on a tear. Aaron Judge, for his postseason woes, he's still Aaron Judge. He's still a guy that has over 50 home runs in the regular season. He's going to give you a battle up there. It's going to be up to the Dodgers pitching staff. And then the biggest key thing in this whole series, because the best hitter I'm going to say it right now, I don't know if it's controversial, best hitter that's going to be playing the series is Juan Soto. That guy can flat out just hit. If you watched his 3-run home run yesterday, I mean, my man just knows what pitch is coming, and he will just battle until he gets a fastball. And that's a guy that the Dodgers have had to face before when he was in San Diego. They've had to face him when he was in Washington. They've gotten beat more times than not. So it's going to be up to the Dodgers to solve that Yankees offense with the pitching set that they have right now. I guarantee you that it's going to be a couple bullpen games thrown in there. I imagine this series goes the distance, but I kind of wouldn't want it any other way. I kind of want this series to go 7 games in LA.
Hey, Cody, I wanted to, because you mentioned the home run yesterday with Juan Soto. Yes, it was very impressive because if you look at like every single pitch, there's just a point in the at bat when he looks at the pitcher and he's like, I got you. I see what you're throwing. I mean, his confidence was like, I mean, you could just see it. You could just see it like he was going to do something. And I was like, but he's got, I actually like him too. He's got this cocky attitude,
I
but
love Juan Soto. If
yeah,
he
but
wants to
I
come
like
to
it.
LA with a
Exactly.
$700 million deal, he can come on.
Exactly. Play some right field. Yeah, I agree. I like him too. But that at bat was pretty impressive. He just looked like he just knew everything he was throwing, and that the poor pitcher, I don't even know his name right now, but yeah, it just didn't look like he could throw something to get past him. And yeah, sure enough, he belts a 3-run home run to like almost dead center, and yeah, and that was the game, and that was gonna catapult the Yankees into the World Series.
And Mike, you mentioned something that's already crossing my mind when I'm thinking about what I'm going to write about this week and what I'm going to talk about. One of my talking points is the Dodgers, starting rotation and their bullpen pitching staff in general, maybe getting close to being overtaxed. The bullpen especially has been had to work overtime this October. High leverage innings. They got to make every pitch. It feels like every guy in that bullpen has to be perfect because if it's not, you get games like tonight. If the offense isn't scoring you a ton of runs, you may be dropping this game. So I think the fatigue of the rotation and the lack of starting pitching, it's going to show this series.
Oh yeah, it's definitely going to show the series. You know, I think that the starting pitchers are going to go more than 4 or 5 innings. I see that they're going to go like probably 6 or 7, and you know, I I kind of think that we are going to see Tony Gonsolin in the World Series.
Yeah, that's
I'm
someone I've been trying to keep tabs on because it seems like he is ready
he's
and
been
he's hung around with the team.
Well, he's been throwing all to the batters. When they're out in practice, during the daytime, he's throwing live BPs to all the batters, and he looked really good when he pitched for Oklahoma. The 3 games that I saw him pitch, his stuff was there, his speed was there, his placement. He was very consistent. His command was on point. And I'm not going to be surprised if we don't see a Tony Gonsolin at some point in this New York series.
Yeah, I think he would definitely benefit the Dodgers, especially given the lack of, starters or traditional stars they have. We saw how hard it was just to get, 2 innings out of a pitcher today. They didn't really want to go to Landon Knack. I imagine they're not really going to want to go that route either against New York. So maybe you're thinking of maybe a potential roster switch, maybe Landon Knack out and Tony Gonsolin in. Carlos, what would you think if Gonsolin made this roster?
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it if the person he's swapping would be Knack, but I'm just looking at the schedule. So we got Friday, Saturday, so we're gonna have fully rested. Like I said, starting rotation and bullpen. So I would say, I mean, Yamamoto and Bueller, I guess first 2 games. I mean, it just I want to say Flaherty because he's going to be the one that could pitch with the least amount of rest. So if we go Yamamoto, he won't pitch for a while. So, but then he hasn't pitched in a while either. Bueller hasn't pitched. I mean, that's tough, but I guess it would be Flaherty, Yamamoto, Bueller. And then in the 4th game, you either go bullpen. And, my guy, I like how he pitches. And even Smoltz mentioned it today. Ben Kasperius. You got to give him a shot. Let him start a game. Let him see what he can do. If he can start game 4, and then maybe, depending on how the series is going, game 5 is a bullpen game, and then go back to your starting rotation fully rested. That's what I would do if I was Roberts. Ben is my guy. I like Tony, but he hasn't pitched. He did, I think, a couple of rehab starts in AAA, but since then, I'm sure he's gone to Arizona, but that's nothing compared to what like Ben's actually been playing in the postseason. He's been in that environment. I think he should get the start. So that'd be my pick for game 4.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways that they can go. I imagine they're going to want to get Flaherty to start a game at home. I just feel like he'll probably pitch comfortable there. I think, the guy that has the balls to pitch on the road, especially in New York, especially in the cold weather, is Walker Buehler. He proved a lot in that start in Citi Field, pitching in that environment, similar environment in the Bronx. So I imagine that's where they'll go. We'll definitely get a clearer picture as we get closer to the series starting. One thing I want to mention to you guys before we start wrapping it up here and we can start celebrating buying all the merch that's already online right now. Dodgers get called, postseason chokers a lot, especially recently, back-to-back first-round exits. But this kind of quote kind of caught me, where it's like, are they really chokers? It's the fourth World Series appearance in 8 years. I mean, that has to mean something, right, Mike?
Oh, it definitely is. And I kind of get it. What people are saying. When it says, the Dodgers organizations they choke, and this. I mean, because you kind of got to look at it. Uh, when we lost to the Diamondbacks, that first game was just a nightmare. I was surprised that Kershaw came out and pitched. When he had a hurt shoulder, and it was just, I don't know. I think this year the Dodgers organization as a whole, like I've said already earlier, they've learned a lot from the previous years, and they changed a whole lot up. In regards to how they're going to prep their guys, how the team's going to be managed, the pitching staff, I think they just did like a full on gut of everything and just came up with a new game plan, for the 2024 series, and virtually had to re-gut it again after all the pitchers go down and have to come up with a totally new game plan, once again. So I think the adversity for this team has helped out, because in years past they haven't really had that adversity. It was self-imposed more than anything, and there wasn't teams that were putting pressure on them. They pretty much did it to themselves. I think a little bit of overcockiness, relaxing, not taking the game serious, and that's just my opinion of it. So I just kind of think that's the difference between this year, in the years past. Can you say that they were chokers, in the past? I mean, yeah, I guess you can. But I don't know. I just think the mentality is different,
I
this
definitely
year.
agree with.
You
I
kind of
think
get where I'm saying
everything.
with that.
I think everything that they've dealt with over the past 15 years has definitely helped them coming into this season. Carlos, I already mentioned it. Fourth World Series appearance in 8 seasons, it has to mean something. Dave Roberts has been involved in all of those, in this entire tenure. This is his 9th year managing. He gets a lot of, shit, but no other manager is doing this. No other team in baseball is doing this. Year in and year out, there's just a different team that kind of steps up. There's really no, I wouldn't say like dynasty because you have to win multiple championships. But when I think of the Dodgers, they're the cream of the crop in the National League. And I feel like, people just need to start giving them credit for that. Am I wrong?
No, not at all. I think it's true. I mean, how many organizations get a chance every single year to be in the playoffs? Whether they get out in the first round, it doesn't matter. They have an opportunity to play for a team that's going to give them the opportunity to play in the playoffs. This is the number one reason why Ohtani came to the Dodgers. He wanted to have the opportunity and see if he could make a difference to get them across, the first, the NLDS, which he did. And now he's going to play in the World Series for the first time. So, you know what? What you mentioned, in 8 years, 4 World Series appearances. That's what other team can say that. Whether or not we won, it doesn't matter. So, but this is, I guess we had said it before. This World Series means a lot. They have to win because we want to shut everybody up about 2020. We want to shut everybody up about the Dodgers. Just like you just mentioned, always been in the playoffs and not win the World Series. So this is a good year to get it done against a good Yankees team with according to a lot of people, the greatest player right now in Juan Soto. So yeah, this is it's a big deal. This is going to be a great series. I mean, there's so many like storylines. This series won't lack any storylines. You got
Right.
Judge against Ohtani, which was going on all year long. Like, who is the better player? They would post stats against each other versus what they comparing their stats. So now we're going to find out who's actually better, who can really take their team to the World Series and be champions. Then you got right fielders in Juan Soto and Mookie Betts. Who's going to be more clutch? Who's going to step up? And I mean, like I said, there's tons of storylines and just the history of the Yankees. Like I said, I don't know how old Mike is, but I remember Reggie Jackson in the World Series. I remember as a kid, I didn't even understand at the time, like, I'm like, why can't they get this guy out? Obviously, because he's really good and he hits home runs, and it was like, and I understood later on growing up, Mr. October, but now we have our own Mr. October in Kike Hernandez. So we'll see what happens. But I mean, that's what they've been calling him. So we'll see what happens. And then we have a secret weapon in what Cody calls him, Tommy Tanks. So we'll see, so we'll put out our secret weapon and we'll see what happens.
It's definitely going to be a great series. Can't wait until it starts on Friday. Dodgers, Yankees. I mean, that just sounds really good rolling off the tongue, especially for the game of baseball. For us Dodger fans, for the Yankees fans out there that haven't, they haven't had a World Series appearance since 2009. So it's been a long time coming for them as well. So they're hungry for another, to add, pen or title 28 to their resume for their historic franchise. Dodgers are trying to get their 8th World Series title. So be sure, we're going to start wrapping it up here. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Make sure you got the alerts on. Roger right now, he's currently working behind the scenes, watching the Dodgers celebrate, recording all the interviews. We'll have interviews through the workouts over the next week or so. And then we're also going to have probably a couple lives, to go over the matchups with the Yankees coming up. The pre and post game will still continue until, the end of the season. So we got a lot of stuff coming, and then DodgersBeat.com, me and Mike got a lot of stuff going on there. Probably going to start, typing away tomorrow about this matchup and kind of what to expect and player breakdowns and all that. So be sure to check that out as well. Other than that, guys, I'm glad we're talking about it. We're celebrating the Dodgers win. They're going to the World Series. Can't overstate it enough. It doesn't happen for every club. You got to enjoy it, guys, because there could be long stretches where they don't do this ever again. So enjoy the little things. Anything else you guys want to say before we close it out?
Super excited for the team. Really excited for Ohtani, for Yamamoto, for Pages. Good to see Kike back to his old self. And Carlos, I'm probably, I think I'm 3 years older than you are.
Oh, shit. Okay.
For that. So,
You did the math.
we're pretty close.
Okay.
But no, super excited for the team. And like I said, every Dodger fan in this state, in this country, in Japan, needs to give Dave Roberts and the front office a big thank you for building this team the way that they did and keeping them together to get to this point. Dave Roberts, I cannot stress this enough. Dave Roberts should be manager of the year this year.
Carlos, any closing thoughts?
The only thing I want to say is hopefully history repeats itself.
That's awesome, man.
That's it.
History repeats itself. And guess what? For our Juan deniers out there, our Juan believers, banana in the tailpipe, we always believe. We never wavered. We always knew the Dodgers were going to win this series.
It was never a banana in the tailpipe.
We never picked the Dodgers to lose, and it all started with the NLDS. So obviously, hopefully Juan can join us in one of these. That way we can go over everything, especially the team finally getting to the World Series, because I don't think he saw that coming. So he may be shocked at a loss for words the next time we see him. But that'll be for the next episode. So be sure to follow us on everything. We'll get you updates when we go live or when we're posting episodes, and we'll see you on the next one. Super excited. And this episode was brought to you by Bet Online. We'll see you next time.
Nice.